Hey! So I wanted to do something a little bit different, such as move to a completely different spot. And I wanted to do something a little bit different than I have done so far in the past, and that's to do a somewhat of a retrospective review of a movie that I grew up with. In fact, I kind of want to do the whole series of the Rocky films, from the first film all the way until the last Rocky and the first Creed film. I they're just movies that I've grown up with. I watched a number upon number of times since I was a child and in my grown years, and I just recently rewatched all of them just because, like, the new Creed film is coming out in a few months. I believe November, if I remember correctly, and I'm super excited for it. So I figured, why not have a little fun and start talking about films that I personally love. Uh, and so let's start right off the bat with the first film. You know, Rocky. I When I was a kid, I used to watch the Rocky films quite a bit. I remember them being on TV a lot. I remember having the first film and a couple of the sequels on VHS, and I just loved watching them. I loved Sylvester Stallone as Rocky. He's just such a likable guy, and it was such. Well, I can't really say much more than anyone else has said about these movies. I mean, it's a kind of inspirational film, the first film, particularly. Starting from nothing and then finding an opportunity, or rather, an opportunity finds him, and finding it in himself to achieve greatness, honestly, to show the world that he's not just some bum, as it is said many, many times throughout the film and the series as a whole. That's kind of referred to, that reference of just being a bum or being something more. And as a kid, I just loved it. I just thought it was it was a heck of a time, and it was something I always felt was special. And then growing up, seeing it as an adult now, at 26 years old, I guess some people wouldn't say adult, but I would. I'm a big kid now, and watching it again recently, a couple days ago, I just appreciate so much about the film. Like, just starting off the bat, if you've never seen any of the Rocky films, first of all, what's wrong with you? And second, sorry, and secondly, I strongly recommend you do, because it's probably been said to death at this point. I mean, this movie that's 40, 50 years. Yeah, it was 1976, so 42 years old now, and I mean, everyone has said it's one of the great movies of all time, and in my opinion, it is. It still holds up to this day as this story that basically, takes someone who's not very bright, he down on his luck. He grew up in a rough neighborhood, and he ended up being a bruiser. This pretty much a henchman for a small time gangster who is played by Joe Spinell, which I think is an unappreciated actor underappreciated actor, rather, sorry, uh, in Hollywood history. I wish he had gotten way more recognition back in his time, but unfortunately that wasn't the case. But he was a phenomenal actor. Anywho, yeah, the story about this guy that, you know, he's pretty much on his way to becoming just a average criminal, to the point where he's enforcing people to pay certain other people money by threatening to break their thumbs, and then one day, just, and it never feels forced, it just feels like out of sheer happenstance, this very famous boxer, Apollo Creed, says, comes across his name, the Italian Stallion, and is like, I need to fight him. I have to fight him. It sounds like this man is the people's people, you know what I mean? And let's give him a chance at the title as mainly a joke, but also a great, publicity stunt. And it just feels genuine. It feels like such an inspiring story. Yeah, it's partially influenced by I forget the real Rocky's name, but it's partially, if not so heavily, inspired by a real life boxer that was, falling towards crime and all that, and then he finds, a shot at, the big title, and it doesn't turn out quite as well as how Rocky's story ended up, but still, also heavily inspired by, Sylvester Stallone's own backstory, and you could just tell that Sylvester Stallone, writing this film and acting in this film, he has such care and passion about it. You could just feel that raw emotion and intensity that's in this character, like this anger that's built up in this guy that's wanted to be great, but just always feels like the world has been down on him. Even though he tries hard to keep positive, he tries to woo this cute girl at a pet shop, Adrian. And even though it doesn't work out time and time again, he tries because, he just wants not necessarily the finer things in life, but just for once something to go his way, because deep down he knows he's a good guy, but he's forced to be a bum, technically, by, breaking people's thumbs and not being able to get chances at fights because he wants to be a boxer, because he's not very good at much else, and he's kind of uneducated and all that. So you could just feel every little ounce of like anger that's kind of built up in this guy, and just all this passion that he wants for his life, and he just can't grasp it somehow. And finally, this thing happens with Apollo Creed, calling him out to, get a chance at the title, and, you could kind of see a little twinkle in his eye, even, like, really? I'm finally getting a shot? But it's never just as easy as that, because he's still going on with this inner turmoil, because it feels like, okay, now that someone has shined a spotlight on me, now people are starting to give a shit, even though before I was just scum to everyone. And so he's going through all this stuff with, not his trainer at the time, but the trainer at the gym that he would go to, with Mick, the famous Mick played by Burgess Meredith, which he is. Burgess Meredith is phenomenal in that role. Like, he does such a great job at bringing in this heart and kind of this weight in its history in this film's world, and he does great. And there's this great scene between Sylvester Stallone and Burgess Meredith, which everyone has seen, knows, when Burgess Meredith comes in to his apartment and tries to convince Rocky to let him train him, and Rocky's like, "Oh yeah, of course. Before I was just a bum. Before I was just the heavy for gangsters, and now all of a sudden you like me now. Oh well, why didn't you want to ever come to my place before? Why are you here now? And you could see it just kind of build up, like, and it's something that I can relate to as well, where you have this sort of dispute and you try to keep it in, even though you let a little lash out here and there. And after the other person's left, at this point, Mick has finally left the apartment, and Stallone just slowly lets it roll on with his inner monologue just finally coming out. And he's angry, but he's not sure why he's angry. He just knows that, like, he feels wronged, yet at the same time he's always wanted this. He's wanted to feel special and for someone to take a chance on him, for Mick to finally take a chance on him, and now that he finally has, he's angry about it. And it's just kind of building up and up to, like, well, why was I worth the time before? Why is it now? Why now? Because some other guy wants to fight me? And it's something I can relate to, where I'm just, I've gone through an emotional moment, and I just sort of all by myself, I just start talking to myself, and I start letting out this emotion and this anger, and it's something that I think a lot of people can relate to. And that's what makes Rocky so good. He is such a likable and relatable guy. He is just a guy. And you just kind of fall in love with this dude that tries to do his best, tries to be good, but the world kicks him down. And you just kind of relate to the fact that, like, we've all been there. We all feel like the world's kicking us down, and we're kind of looking for our fight with Apollo Creed, our chance to shine, our chance to be more than just a speck. And that's what the first film is, and it is gorgeously shot. By the way, the cinematography is great, and it came out in like the perfect time that it ever could have, in the new Hollywood era of the 1970s, which which let writers and directors have real control over their art and their writings, and it's one of those few times where everything about the film just feels like it has been thought and thought over again, like and it's such a great character piece on Rocky Balboa himself, because every scene you just kind of see, like, okay, where is this guy's head? Like, even the simple act of him trying to open his locker and it turns out to be taken by someone else's, you can just see something in Sylvester Stallone's eyes and his movements of, like, he's thinking about something. He's got something on the mind, and something interrupts it to piss him off. And you could just kind of see that he's this, for the most part, he can control himself just fine, but then if some little bit goes wrong, he's a wildfire that just, like that, can just get out of control. And it's shown really well when, scenes of Rocky Balboa fighting in the ring, where, he shows control, a little bit of, timidness, but still doing his job, and then someone lands the wrong punch and he's just like this beast, and he goes for it, and he doesn't care how many times he gets punched in the head. He's gonna take those punches to the head just to get at his opponent, and it's really cool to see that switch all of a sudden. And I love Sylvester Stallone's performance in all the Rockies, but especially the first film, where it's just so beautifully done, so thoughtfully, written and performed. And it was, I believe, aside from the porno, his first leading role, I believe. I believe it's his first leading role anyways. I know that he did work in the past as supporting characters, such as in Death Race 2000, as Machine Gun Joe, which I think he's great in. But this really showed everyone that like Rocky, he's not just some spec. He's got talent. He's got something to say, and he's going to say it. And I've drooled all over Sylvester Stallone's performance and writing, but I should also acknowledge, his Rocky Balboa's relationship with Adrian in the movie, which is really the heart of this whole thing. And you just fall in love with these two. You honestly do. It starts out so cute and innocent, and you feel so much emotion by the end of the movie, and it really earns that heartstring tugging moments that it does towards the end when Rocky, he, spoiler alert if you haven't watched this 42-year-old movie, loses the fight, but he won the respect that he's been fighting for so long from everyone. He showed that he can go the distance. He knew he wasn't going to win. He knew that no matter what he did, it was a fight that he wasn't going to win. But he had to do it for himself to at the very least, earn respect for his own capabilities, his own life, and show that he's not just amounting to nothing. He's at least doing something to make his life mean something, and to work towards being a better man. And it works so well at the end when all he wants to do is just hug Adrian. Like, all the reporters can piss off, all of the people that are cheering his name do not matter. It's just, he just wants to hug his girlfriend. And it's very cute how it starts out with just, him trying to tell her jokes, him trying to, take her out on a date on this skating rink, but he doesn't know how to skate, so he just walks on the ice while she skates, and it's very cute. And even the first kiss is a peck on the cheek that he gives her. It's very sweet. At no point you think like, oh, this guy's just trying to get laid. At no point you think like he's just some player or something like that. You really buy that this guy likes this girl, thinks that she's beautiful, and throughout the movie you can kind of see an arc with her as well, starting out as this shy girl that with very subtle symbolism and imagery, she's just a bird trapped in a cage waiting to be freed. And you could see this arc with her as they go along in the movie, that she starts out, shy, and then finally fights for herself, much like how Rocky is finally fighting for himself. And it's very well done. You can tell that this relationship, as it blossoms, it's not ever anything toxic between one another or anything like that. You can tell that they are progressing in their lives to actually make it better, or at least attempt to, and they're doing it together, and it's very heartwarming, honestly. uh I don't know what else I can say about this movie that I haven't already said, and many, 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 many people before me have said. I just kind of wanted to get my own thoughts out about it because it's a movie, like I said, I grew up with, I loved, and being older now, I can appreciate for a lot of different reasons. And it's a film that, in my opinion, just feels like a flawless masterpiece. And I'm sure that's, that's a very cliched thing to say, but it's just one of those perfect movies, at least for me. It's got all the emotion you can want, all the, the it's it's almost indescribable. Just because I feel just invested from start to finish with what's going on with these characters in this very dreary looking world, and seeing them rise above what what other people have put them in, have stuffed them in this little box, and it's just great to see them burst out of it. And it's a movie that you can easily fall in love with. At least I did. So that's the first Rocky. Only took 22 minutes to talk about. There's plenty more that I could talk about with the first Rocky, but I think I've talked enough. So, yeah, I will be continuing on with talking about the other Rockies in the coming days and so on, leading up to the first Creed film. So I hope you enjoyed my ramblings and thoughts on the first Rocky film, and yeah, that's it. Take care. Bye.